emotion regulation. So why do you get pissed off so easily? Why do you get emotionally high? Why do you have emotional outbursts? Why do you feel like you have to react? You have to give it back every time? Why do you have that feeling of counterattack? A counterattack. Let's give it back, right? Emotion regulation, which is the opposite of what is happening, dysregulation of emotion. I don't know if you have seen this advert. It's advert by the Liberty Insurance, and it's a family, a young family. The dad, a little girl of 2, and the mom. So the mom is in between, and the little girl keeps saying, "Liberty, liberty." The dad says, "No, it's Biberi, Biberi." The little girl says again, "Liberty." Then the dad begins to get angry. Anger begins to build in him. He's like, "Biberi, Biberi, say Biberi." And the kid says, "Liberty," and then throws her doll at the dad. Then the dad gets upset. And what happens there is the dad says, "Now she's immature. She's immature. She's mocking me." This is a dad talking to a 2-year-old baby. And then the mom says, "It's okay. That's enough." So to both of them, "That's enough. That's enough, kids." So 2 kids in the room. "That's enough." And then she says, "She's only 2. She's only 2." Talking to the dad, right? She's only 2. So what is happening to this adult dad who has become like the baby in the room? Emotion dysregulation. It happens in the brain. It starts in the brain. Starts right in the brain. So there's a brain researcher, specialist, Dr. Dan Siegel. Dan Siegel uses what he calls the hand model to describe the brain, the hand model. So he says, if you keep your hand like this, okay, flowing off from this wrist area is the spinal cord. So the spinal cord goes up. And then you close your thumb like this. When you close your thumb, then this area is called the limbic area. The limbic area is where arousal, emotions happen. And within this limbic area, you have the amygdala, which is where all those emotions of hunger, emotions of sex, emotions of pleasure, relaxation, and drinking, that is where they happen. So Dr. Siegel says, if you fold your 4 fingers, fold these 4 fingers in to close the thumb, then you have the cortex, okay? The cortex area, which allows you to perceive the outside world, where you think, where you reason. And here, right here, is where the prefrontal cortex is, right? So, but this cortex area is the part that regulates the subcortical and the limbic area. Okay, so this regulates this. So when you feel tired, and this area is like the frontal part of the brain right behind the forehead, somewhere here. That's somewhere here, right? I love this because it simplifies the process of brain functioning in a very, very, very simplistic way. So, but then going back to this, he talks about flipping the lid, flip the lid. So when you get tired, when you get fatigued, when someone pushes your emotional button and all that, what happens is that this emotional side begins to react, and it wants to do what? It wants to flip open. So your level of thinking, reasoning, understanding, cognition becomes distorted and impacted as the signals go from the limbic area and this subcortical zone to the cortex and the prefrontal cortex. And that is where people shut down when emotions shoot up. John Gottman will call it flooding. So you get flooded. Flooding means you become aroused. Your arousal takes over reasoning and you shut down. I was watching an event that happened in the Nigerian Senate a few days ago, where two mature, adult, respected people, a member of the House and a high-placed Nigerian woman, got into this altercation and exchange of words, exchange of negative words, exchange of verbal expressions that you could look back and you are like, did I say that? Respected people. People watched by their families, people watched by their relations, people watched by those who look at them as role models. But it can happen to anybody. We talk about anger management. One of my friends, who is a clinical psychologist, is a priest, Father Ugonna Mbono, recently was addressing the effects of trauma and post-traumatic stress disorder in our lives. Sometimes they come out in the form of emotional outbursts. Emotional outbursts. So you give it to me, I give it to you. You attack me, I attack you. What happens is that at that time, the lid has been flipped open and it becomes fight, flight, freeze reaction. This is what is going on. The fight, your brain says, okay, what you're hearing is attack. He's attacking me, she's attacking me. Therefore, attack back, give it back, give it back, give it back. The brain shuts down. I want to remind us of something that St. Paul said in his letter to the Corinthians, the famous hymn of love that we read in 1 Corinthians chapter 13. In 1 Corinthians chapter 13, reading from verse 4, Paul says, love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful. It is not arrogant or rude. Love does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrong, but rejoices in the right. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. So what do you do when you feel flooded? When you feel emotionally high? When it seems like you have to react? When it seems like you have to give it back to the person? There are various interventions that have been postulated in counseling, in psychology, psychotherapy, or in the clinical world. You can do some pause, breathe, take a breath, breathe in deeply, and process what is going on inwards. You can do mindful meditation and sit down, play some music, and quieten yourself. You can take a walk and leave that environment. Christ says, if your right hand will lead you to sin, cut it out, right? If your left hand will lead you to sin, cut it out. Leave that scenario, leave that. Just speak to yourself a little bit at that moment and tell yourself, I do not have to be like this person. I do not have to react like this person. And this is not who I am. If you do that, then you become like that child. You know the difference between children and adults when you think about the brain and its functioning, right? The difference is that the limbic system, which is this part of the brain, this part, right, this emotional part, is way developed in children. So children are very quick to smiling, to laughing, to not thinking anything. So their prefrontal cortex and the cortex zone do not develop at the same rate. It develops gradually. And that is why children react in a different way. But adults have higher level of reasoning because we have our cortex, our prefrontal cortex areas much functional, developed, and supposedly active. So when you begin to act in an emotional way that you cannot regulate yourself, it means that your emotions are taking the better part of you. Maybe you've been traumatized, as my friend would highlight. Then think about receiving therapy, receiving counseling to learn some anger management issues, some anger management interventions and strategy to deal with yourself. Go back to the scripture. It can come from a spirit-filled environment, something that is happening from within. Do you feel empty? Do you feel dry? Do you feel low? Why do you feel frustrated? What is that reason at that moment? So it goes back to answering that question. Why do you get pissed off so easily? Let people not know you as an angry person, as a person who is easily irritated, as a person who is so quick to resent, quick to counterattack. It doesn't help. Paul says love is patient and kind. Maybe do some lessons on self-soothing and how you can calm yourself and learn to give back in love and in joy. Sometimes people say, hey, oh, Father Vin, we see you always smiling. Is it that I don't get angry? Who said that? I get angry, but I have learned to manage my anger. It's self-soothing. That self-soothing is important. Self-soothing can happen within a few seconds. That intentionality to say, I'm not going to let this upset me. I'm not going to let this drag me into who I am not. I'm not going to let this mess me up. It begins in the brain. So think about this. Your brain and its functioning. Do you easily flip the lid, or can you hold the lid tight so that you will not be that angry person? So I hope this helps you to regulate yourself more and to regulate the environment. We are made for one another in relationships, and if nobody offends you, if nobody upsets you from day to day, then something is wrong. Something is missing in you. But it's yourself who will tell yourself, I will not get angry. I will not get upset. I will not get into an outburst. So, thank you for watching. And thank you for always following my channel. God bless you.